All right, let's start by talking about the structure and functionality of the countdown latch. So a countdown latch implements one of the several Java barrier synchronizers. It's the simplest one. It allows one or more threads to wait for the completion of a set of operations being performed by other threads. A good example is the starting gate in a horse race, where you have to wait for all the horses to be in position before the race begins. It's well suited for fixed-sized, one-shot entry and exit barriers. You can't use it for cyclic barriers because you have to reset the countdown latch each time once you're done with it being counted down to 0. Unlike a lot of the other synchronizers we've talked about before, like the reentrant lock and the reentrant read-write lock and the semaphore and so on, the countdown latch actually does not implement a common interface. It has its own interface. And even though it doesn't implement any common interface, it does, under the hood, use the abstract queued synchronizer framework, which, as you may recall from our discussions of the earlier synchronizers in Java, uses the bridge pattern to separate the abstraction, which is the interface of the countdown latch, from the implementation hierarchy, so the two can vary independently. Locking in the countdown latch is handled by the sync implementer hierarchy. This is very reminiscent of how the other synchronizers work. Basically, it does not, the only thing that's really different is it doesn't distinguish between fair versus non-fair semantics. That was what was being done with the use of the bridge pattern for the reentrant lock and the semaphore and so on. They used the bridge pattern to separate out the fair versus non-fair semantics within a common interface. In this case, we're just reusing the abstract queued synchronizer's ability to queue things up and notify them when something happens. So it's kind of a lobotomized use of these features. So it's using the abstract queued synchronizer to represent the count. It's keeping track of how many, what the count is, and you'll recall when the count hits 0, then things can go ahead and start to run. So that's just a quick overview of the structure and functionality of the countdown latch, and now we'll talk about the key methods in a second.